Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have in our studio a person that was born and raised in Ottawa. He's a graduate of Algonquin College in their recreation management program. He holds a graduate diploma in performance coaching. He's currently coaching both senior boys and girls basketball teams at Brookfield High School. He works with Ottawa Shooting Stars organization, managing their facilities and organizing the house leagues. He's the founder and CEO of Dynes Sports Management and the commissioner of the National Junior and Senior Circuits. He's an unsung hero in the Ottawa community. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Skinner.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. First off, what made you decide to get involved in sports? It looks like you're super passionate about sports, and not just basketball, but all sports. Like, were you a sporty guy growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of describe myself as a gym rat growing up. I was sort of jack of all trades, master of none. Like in high school, I played on pretty much every single sports team there was, right. And I would never stand out as exceptionally great on any of the teams there, but I made the teams, and whether it was badminton or football or basketball or whatever. So I've always had a passion for sports, and I've sort of now followed that into adulthood and trying to chase that passion and turn it into a full-time job.
Sweet. And you were obviously a native of Ottawa. How has sports kind of evolved or changed in the Ottawa community? I'm a transplant, so within your lifetime, how has the sports scene changed in Ottawa?
Well, I think it's come a long way over probably even the last 10 years, I would say. Still has a long way to go as well, too, right? For the longest time, Ottawa was sort of viewed as, Toronto's little cousin down the 401, right? And, whether it was NHL, the Senators never being able to beat the Leafs in the playoffs, or just in the basketball scene, it was always a one-way trip, right? Ottawa teams were always heading down to Toronto for tournaments and all of that as well, too. So we've definitely come a long way, especially on the, amateur sports front as well, too. At the grassroots level, we've got a lot of really, really strong, passionate people that are doing amazing things in the community, and it's starting to have ripple effects, and we're starting to see some of those athletes who have been in the system for a long time and reaping the fruits of that labor of all these volunteers who have poured hundreds and thousands of hours into their development, and it's starting to come to fruition, whether it's Carleton dominating on the U Sports circuit there, all the way down to local associations that are going out and winning all these out of town tournaments and some prestigious events as well too. So it's definitely come a long way. I think, on the professional sports side there, it's had its ups and downs, and across a variety of sports, whether it's, soccer and, they just put a halt to that, but then just today announced that Atletico Madrid. So they're going to be sponsoring the bid for the CPL. So crazy. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride on the pro sports scene for sure, but Ottawa's coming up, and I think a lot of it's tied to population as well too. Just eclipsed 1 million people in the city, and let's go. Yeah, people love their sports, so they're going to hop behind whatever's available. Yep.
And so did you so when you were growing up, you obviously played a lot of sports, was that something that you wanted to do? Going into university, going into the sports management program, did you always have the intention of starting your own management company?
No, that was sort of a trial and error type thing. When I was graduated from high school, and then I actually went to Carleton for 2 years, and the original plan was, I was doing political science and did 2 years worth of courses, then sort of had that moment of just, is this really what I'm passionate about? Am I going to be in sort of this sphere for the next 40 plus years of my working life? And just really didn't have it, right? It wasn't something that I could see myself getting up out of bed excited for and motivated to do, right? So went back to the drawing board, evaluated some options, talked to a lot of people that were in the field already. I had always had part-time jobs in the sports industry, whether it was running summer camps for the city of Ottawa or working at the Bell Sensplex just as a little rink rat doing tournaments and whatnot. And then my own experience as an athlete as well, I thought, okay, well, let's explore some options here. And that eventually led to, the recreation management program and then the eventual performance coaching program as well, too. And then from there, again, started exploring, all right, well, am I going to hop on with a pro sports franchise and do stuff for them? Am I going to get into the marketing side of sports, the ticket sales? Like, what's sort of my niche? And, after a few experiences trying things out, which this is something I advocate to all of my athletes, try things out, find out what you like, find out what you don't like. There's no experience like actually getting your hands dirty.
Right.
And after doing that for a little while, I decided, you know what, like there's some real needs in the market that I feel aren't being met. And there's no boss like being your own boss,
yes.
Right? I've had some wonderful bosses in my career, but I probably like myself better than any of them as well.
Well, you have to answer to yourself, right?
Exactly.
And so you've worked with a lot of community organizations like Hera Mission and Awesome Ottawa, and they obviously work with kids who they can't help themselves. You started your own basketball program under your own management company called Dynes Spartans. How did that come about? Because it's pretty unique, the angle that you took.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been involved right from the get-go, back when Dynes was formed in 2015, in the local basketball scene. And what I had really noticed was that there's so much talent out there in Ottawa, but all it takes is one barrier, and that kid might not be able to access programming or a club team, and no level of talent is going to be able to overcome that barrier. And yeah, there's definitely avenues out there to sort of get around some of them there, but everyone, when they think, oh, there's a barrier to sport barriers, they always think the financial side, right? It could be something as simple as you've got a super talented athlete, but they can't get a ride to practices, or there's not a bus route that takes them close to there, or, after school, they've got to look after their little brother and sister for a few hours because mom and dad are doing shift work. Like, who's going to look after them while they've got to go to practice? And then they go and they get chewed out by coaches because they're late for practice, or they get benched for a game, and then they spiral, and then they get turned off the sport. So what we aimed to do with the Dynes Spartans program was just remove every single one of the barriers that there was. So all the kids, they got all new shoes at the beginning of the season. They get home and away jerseys. They get practice jerseys, water bottles, all of their fees are covered in-house, so that they pay absolutely $0, including out-of-town tournaments and hotel fees and all of that. Absolutely zero cost to them.
Amazing.
So the financial barrier is gone. Any of the kids, all they have to do is just pull one of the coaches aside and say, hey, I need a ride to that game or that practice, or I need a ride to every practice or every game. And we're going out and we're picking them up. And if they've got, some issues at home too, where again, they are looking after a little brother or sister or something like that, we've got a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa where, okay, guess what? Bring your brother and sister. We'll sign them up as members while you're doing your practice tonight. They can be sitting in homework club or painting or cooking club or whatever. So every single barrier you could imagine, we're trying to take that off the table so that these kids, all they have to worry about is playing ball, right? Because sports is just such a uniting, all-encompassing, sort of avenue that I couldn't imagine my life without sports. And I want to be able to make sure that no kid is left behind because of, A, B, C, or D barriers that exist for them.
So if you, it sounds like you're a multi-gazillionaire and you just sponsored the whole program. How did you go about getting all the sponsorship, and how did you get the support that they had $0 fees? Like, how did you go about getting that?
So this is year one. It's entirely a pilot program, right? Mm-hmm. So Dynes is footing the bill, and like you say, I would love to say that I'm a gazillionaire, but that's certainly not the case. There's no hidden bank accounts there. If my wife is listening to this, but honestly, we're footing the bill from all the other sort of revenue and resources that we have going on, whether it's from other associations or coaching or running tournaments or fundraisers or whatever the case is. And what we really strove to do with this program as far as the fees, and what we wanted to do from the outset was, okay, this is not a program for poor kids. This is not you've got no money at home, sign up for it, right? Because you're helping them by playing basketball, but you're also sort of stigmatizing them as well too, because everyone knows, that's the poor kid too, right? So what we did was, absolutely anyone can join. So we've got some of the kids that are on the team that could very well have paid whatever we set the fees to. Right? It wouldn't have been an issue. But what we've found, especially nowadays, I mean, you look south of the border and it's really clear. Everyone's on one side or the other, right? It's you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're rich, you're poor. There's no middle ground or mingling or... And such a huge part of life and understanding other people is getting to know them.
Absolutely.
And seeing where they're coming from. What are their belief systems? What are their values, So by mingling people who could very well afford this program with kids who, didn't have 2 cents to rub together, it's teaching these kids values off the court that are going way beyond basketball, right? And so you walk into a gym with these kids there, and they're thick as thieves. They're brothers now. I've never seen a group of kids in all my years of coaching, regardless of sport, that are ready to run through a wall for one another like these kids are. And, because they know you've got to earn it. It's not because that you're the coach's son and so you're going to be a starter no matter what, and you can slack off and practice, and they all hold each other accountable, right?
That sounds like a gigantic operation.
Yeah.
I know you're not doing this by yourself.
No.
You have some people around you that, you said off camera that you have to associate yourself with some really reliable people. How do you find those people?
Honestly, if I had a magic bullet for knowing that, I would share it with you. But it very much like finding what your passion is. It's a lot of trial and error. Trust is not earned overnight, and you gotta prove it to be counted on. And I really have always sort of prided myself on trying to reward loyalty, and people who've been good to me over the years, I will try and repay that in spades to them as well. So absolutely, you need a strong team around you, and people like Brian and Coach Hakeem, and even the older brothers that are pitching in now too, and they're helping out in practice there. You got Rudy and Randy and Hans and some of the older generation that are passing down those values. They're they do all the heavy lifting. I was saying off camera, I get to sort of just GM this. So it's the one time a year where I'm not coaching or grabbing score sheets or doing operational stuff. So I get to actually just watch the games and enjoy them. They do all the heavy lifting, and without them, the program's not running at all. So,
from a club standpoint, there's several clubs in Ottawa. You're associated with the Ottawa Shooting Stars, and we were talking, off camera as well, that these clubs are run on volunteers, and volunteers, they're in it because their kids are in it, and then their kids age out, and then that volunteerism, that whole resource just leaves, and then you got to recruit new ones. What you do is quite unique at Dynes Sports Management. Is, you're going into the organization and say, hey, I can do A, B, and C for you at this rate, and that kind of offloads a lot of the grunt work from those organizations. I think that's brilliant. I should have thought of that before I opened this gym, but we are where we are. But I think that for me is brilliant, and I think you can get to a point where you have several clubs that you're running, and Dynes Sport is pretty much running Eastern Ontario. Like, I mean, I don't know if that's one of your goals, but
global domination.
Yeah, I mean, world domination.
Yeah.
So I think just because the way how your mind works, and we spoke off camera saying that you can score sheet and shot clock and do like that. Talent is unique. Like, where does that come from? Like, are you like a mathematician?
Oh my God.
Are you just a multitasker?
The happiest day of my life was when I was done high school and I knew I never had to do math again there. I've not been, I was always good at math, but as soon as I started putting letters into the equations, I was like, okay, I'm out. This is hieroglyphics to me here. So, I honestly, I credit a lot of it to, my parents who just raised me with a strong work ethic, and, they really didn't let me get away with slacking off. And if I made a commitment to something, I had to do it, and didn't matter like whether I was 14 years old, and unless I was hit by a bus, like I better be on my deathbed, otherwise you're going to work. I don't care, right? So I credit a lot of it to them. But going back to the volunteer piece there, it really is what we're finding nowadays is that what used to be done by a group of 30 or 40 people in an association is really now being run by 6 to 8 key people, right? And that's a lot of work that you're downloading to just a few people, right? So you've got people that are wearing so many hats. They're doing the registration, they're being the treasurer, they're running equipment all over to gyms or rinks or baseball diamonds or whatever all weekend long, that it's no wonder there's such a burnout for that, right? I mean, and that's a fairly recent phenomenon too, because when I was a kid, like you'd be in the hockey locker room there and you'd almost be like turning parents away, being like, okay, we don't need any more orange slices and that and that. We've already got 2 team managers and 3 assistant coaches. And so I don't know if it's just, the 24/7 connected world we live in, that everyone's accessible now. I mean, I look in some of the stands sometimes and parents are still just hammering away on their phones, right? Like, free time is at a premium. So what we're trying to do is say, like, listen, it's not an astronomical fee that we're charging here. You raise registration prices by whatever, $5-10 a head, and we can offload all of these pressure points that have been, causing you guys headaches, and you guys can just focus on the bigger picture stuff. You can, grow the club, or, hey, our girls' side of the program enrollment went down, so let's focus on that this year, rather than, I would love to do this, but I just don't have time to.
Right. Yeah. And so that's at the local level. Now you're working the national junior circuit and senior circuit with boys and girls, tournaments and tournament sites, and booking gyms and booking the schedule. And we spoke again about coaches requesting this time, 2 games off, I got to be finished by Sunday, blah 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 blah, and you got to make this schedule. That is not a normal thing to do. Like, how do you manage that? And do you have to take, you have to take some, you have to take something strong to get through those weekends? Or like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, there might be a beer that gets cracked open after we release a schedule there. You know what? Like, it does. It goes back to how busy everyone is. Everyone's got a million things on the go, right? And even some of these super high level programs that are competing at the national level, some of their coaches are, okay, I got to be done by this time because I'm also coaching this team, and then this rep team, and da da da. So they've got so many things on the go that they do have a lot of commitments. So it's not just, I would love to be able to just go on something like, leaguelobster.com and just, all right, I've got this many teams, churn me out a schedule. Yeah. They'll churn me out a schedule, but this team already played that team, 2 sessions ago, and they're not going to fly from Saskatchewan to play someone they've already played. Absolutely. And it doesn't take into fact the requests and all that. So every single one of them is manually done. Wow. Right. So yeah, it essentially looks like the final scene in like A Beautiful Mind, where I'm writing on windows and there's just papers everywhere, and it takes a while to put together. But at the end of the day, we're just striving to put together a platform for these kids to showcase their talents, because, for the longest time, especially on the basketball scene, if you wanted to do anything, you better be heading down to the States, right? Otherwise, you're not even going to be a blip on the radar, right? So what we're trying to do is provide some of these athletes opportunities to stay home and, not need to go to a prep school at grade 9, away from mom and dad to be able to take your game to the next level. You can compete for a national championship and still, go home and have dinner with mom at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And so do you like the difference between the elite stuff that you're doing with the national circuit and the house league stuff that you're doing with Ottawa Shooting Stars? Which one do you find more rewarding, or is it both just work for you?
Depends on which day you ask me on. They all have their amazing traits and amazing values, and they also have their challenges, right? I wouldn't say I enjoy one more than the other, because I get just as much joy out of seeing, a kid finally learning how to do a layup consistently versus the kid who's almost throwing down and, jam from the free throw line, right? So, you've got both ends of the spectrum. And then even some of our work with, Awesome Ottawa. So this is working with athletes who are on the autism spectrum, right? So for some of them, a great day is just they listened, right? They listened to the commands. They didn't score a single basket, but they were in there. They were having fun. They had a smile on their face. They were participating, right? Because for a lot of them, they're used to just hearing, no, don't do that. Stop, sit, listen, da. So to be able to have that hour away from mom and dad, and they're interacting in a sports setting, it's amazing, right?
And so, what has attracted you to these organizations that work with special needs or kids on the spectrum or kids that are inner city or underprivileged? Like what attracted you to that? Like what was in your upbringing that said, I need to help those people?
Again, I credit my parents for a lot of it, for instilling, good values in both myself and my sister growing up. And what I think is sort of the perfect blend of everything is, number one, there's a sports focus to it. So there's an aspect. So whether we're doing, a tournament for Hara Mission or, working at the Boys and Girls Club or doing a camp for Awesome Ottawa or whatever it is, right? There's a sports aspect to it, which sign me up. You've already piqued my interest, but it's also making a tangible impact locally, right? I've always sort of been an advocate of, it's nice to write a check, and trust me, if I had, a gazillion dollars, like we were saying, I'd like to write many checks, worthwhile causes, because you got to keep the lights on and you got to do stuff, right? Sure. But, volunteering your time and being physically present and making those connections with those kids is equally as important in my eyes. So the fact that I can do that in my hometown and sort of see the bigger picture and the effects that it is having on these communities, it's huge, right? So,
my man. So this is why I wanted to get you on, because I know this about you. I didn't know everything like you just said, but I knew there was something there that I needed to get to the world, or to the Ottawa community at least, that we have some unsung heroes amongst ourselves. And I think, with platforms like this, people now can say, oh, I seen that guy Kyle on, because you're just like in the cut. You're like iodine, you're just kind of floating, and you're just unseen, but things are working seamlessly. And again, you said off camera, if someone like you doesn't wake up in the morning, it all goes sour, but I think, with the people that you have around you and the people that you surrounded yourself with, like, we need to have more of you. We need to clone you, as you said. You need to, we need another, the Kyle out there. Just, so I want to personally shout you out, because I think what you're doing is incredible, and I just want you to keep on doing what you're doing. But before I let you go, we have a segment called Keeping It 100.
Okay.
So I'm going to hit you with some quick questions.
Okay.
1-word answers. It might be a 2-word answer, but I'm going to hit you with these answers. No calling a friend. No lifelines. No lifelines. No nothing.
Okay.
You're just going to answer as honestly as you can. Beaver tails or poutine?
Beaver tails.
Dang, that was quick.
Right.
Leafs or Les Canadiens? You can't pick sense.
Can we pick arena collapses on both of them?
No.
We'll go Canadians. Sure.
Which move is more unstoppable, the Kareem skyhook or the James Harden step back?
I gotta go skyhook. I'll go retro vintage.
Cool. If you can spend one day working in an NBA office, which team would you pick?
I'd like to shadow Daryl Morey for a day. So Rockets.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting.
I think he's a different guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see sort of what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. What's attracting you to the Rockets? Besides, is it something that he's just so unique at doing? Like
I just think that he's got a unique perspective, and even when it's not coming to basketball related things, he's speaks his mind, and I think it would probably be with the new owner, the new Fertitta owner down there. There might be some interesting meetings that could be a little fly on the wall in there as well too. So
nice. Yeah. Cool. If you had to listen to one song for the rest of your life, what song would that be?
Oh, that is a good question.
There's a lot of songs out there.
There's so many songs out there. I'll say Foo Fighters Everlong.
Let's go. Kyle Skinner, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me. And, I know you were singing my praises there, but all the plaques on your wall here, you're doing a lot of amazing things in the community too. So shout out to you as well.
Thank you, man. It's mutual.